Greetings and welcome to Monarch channel. Hope everyone's doing fine and you are ready for more scary stories. Today we're gonna talk about female serial killers. Although serial murders by women are relatively rare, there have been around 100 female serial killers in past decades. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and like the video. If any of you have your own YouTube channel and you need some background free videos, please visit my other channel, Monarch Free Videos. They are all copyright free and you can use it in any way you like, you don't have to ask for the permission. All I ask of you is to subscribe, like and share the link. You can find link to my copyright free background videos in the description box. Okay, let's get started. Milka Pavlovic was a Yugoslav serial killer, a peasant woman living in Stari Pavljani near Bjelovar, today's Croatia. She poisoned family members, relatives and servants with arsenic between March and July 1934, succeeding in killing 6 and wounding 10 others so she could acquire their inheritance. After being convicted of her crimes, she was sentenced to death and executed. Little documentation of Pavlovic's early lives exists. She was born in 1905 in a small village of Kokinac, and at some point she married Rade Pavlovic of nearby Stari Pavljani, moving into his home and finding work as a milkmaid. A childless, bitter woman, Milka was regarded poorly by her fellow villagers. Around March 1934, she bought arsenic from a local pharmacy under false name, claiming that it was for killing rats. She then took the poison home and put it into the food served to her husband Rade, who soon after began vomiting violently and passed away. His death was not regarded as suspicious and Milka inherited his estate since the couple had no children. Over the next few months, dozens of other relatives and their servants were poisoned in the same fashion, mainly the Jagodic household. As a result, 4 people were admitted to a clinic in Zagreb with complaints of terrible cramps in their stomach: the widow Slavka Jagodic, her daughter Sava, an unnamed servant and a close relative of the family. Shortly after their admission, all of the victims sadly passed away. Fortunately, the 9 other living members of the Jagodic family survived, but were left with the after effect of the poisoning. However, on July 2nd of that year, another strange death occurred. The family's gypsy blacksmith Mišo Đurđević died in agony, much alike the others before him. This aroused suspicions from local villagers, who were quick to point out possible culprit, the widow Milka Pavlovic, whose husband has passed in eerily similar circumstances just months before. Milka was arrested and the prosecutor's office ordered that all of the deceased be exhumed and test for traces of arsenic poisoning. While she protested her innocence at first, Pavlovic eventually admitted that she had poisoned her victims because of her desire to acquire their wealth. A statement backed up when the autopsies concluded that Mr. Pavlovic and Jagodic family members and Mišo Đurđević had been poisoned with lethal quantities of arsenic. According to Milka, she poured the poison into biscuits, salt and any other food while she was alone cooking in the kitchen, and thereafter served it to her unaware victims. After a 6-day-long trial, Milka Pavlovic was found guilty on all counts and sentenced to death. During the trial, it was additionally revealed that she had planned to dispose of a 2-year-old child with a poisoned loaf, but was stopped in the nick of time by the child mother. For her crimes, she was brought to Bjelovar, where she was executed by hanging on May 18, 1935.
I will kill you.
Jane Topan was an American serial killer nicknamed Jolly Jane. After her arrest in 1901, she confessed to 31 murders. Topan is quoted as saying that her ambition was to have killed more people, helpless people, than any other man or woman who ever lived. Jane Topan was born Honora Kelly on March 31, 1854. Her mother, Bridget Kelly, died of tuberculosis when she was very young. Her father, Peter Kelly, was well known as an eccentric and abusive alcoholic, nicknamed by those who knew him as Kelly the Crack, as in crackpot. In later years, Kelly became the source of many local rumors concerning his supposed insanity. The most popular one being that his madness finally drove him to sew his own eyes closed while working as a tailor. In 1860, only a few years after his wife's death, Kelly took his two youngest children, 8-year-old Delia Josephine and 6-year-old Honora, to the Boston Female Asylum, an orphanage for indigent female children. Kelly surrendered the two girls, never to see them again. Documents from the asylum note that they were rescued from a very miserable home. No records exist of Delia and Honora experiences during the time in the asylum, but reportedly Delia became a prostitute while the older sister Nellie, who was not committed to the orphanage, was committed to an insane asylum. In November 1862, less than 2 years after her father has left them, Honora Kelly was placed as servant in the home of Mrs. Anne C. Topan of Lowell, Massachusetts. Though never formally adopted by the Topans, Honora took on the surname on her benefactors and eventually became known as Topan. The original Topan family already had a daughter, Elizabeth, with whom Honora was in good terms. In 1885, Topan began training to be a nurse at Cambridge Hospital. Unlike her early years, where she was described as brilliant and terrible, at the hospital she was well-liked, bright and friendly, evoking the nickname Jolly Jane. Once Topan became close with the patients, she picked her favorite ones. The patients were normally early and very sick. During her residency, Topan used her patients as guinea pigs in experiments with morphine. She altered their prescripted dosage to see what it will do to their nervous system. However, she spent considerable time alone with patients, making up fake charts and medicating them to drift in and out of consciousness, and even getting into bed with them. Topan was recommended for the prestigious Massachusetts General Hospital in 1889. There she claimed several more victims before being fired the following year. She briefly returned to Cambridge, but was soon dismissed for administering opiates recklessly. Topan then began a career as private nurse and flourished despite complaints of her petty theft. Topan began her poisoning spree in 1895 by killing her landlord, Israel Dunham, and his wife. In 1899 she killed her foster sister, Elizabeth. In 1901, Topan moved in with the elderly Alden Davis and his family to take care of him after the death of his wife Mattie, whom Topan had murdered. Within weeks, she killed Davis, his sister Edna, and two of his daughters, Minnie and Genevieve. The surviving members of the Davis family ordered a toxicology exam on Alan Davis' youngest daughter, Minnie. The report found that she has been poisoned, and local authorities assigned a police detail on Topan to watch her. On October 29, 1901, she was arrested for murder. By 1902, she had confessed to 31 murders. Soon after the trial, the New York Journal printed what was purported to be Topan's confession to her lawyer, claiming that she had killed more than 31 people and that she wanted the jury to find her sane so she could eventually have a chance to being released. Topan insisted upon her own sanity in court, claiming that she could not be insane if she knew what she was doing and knew that it was wrong, but nonetheless she was declared insane and committed. On June 23rd, in the Barnstable County Courthouse, she was found not guilty by reasons of insanity and committed for the life in the Taunton Insane Hospital. Amy Duggan's sister Archer Gilligan was a nursing home proprietor and serial killer from Windsor, Connecticut. She murdered at least 5 people by poisoning them. One of her victims was her second husband, Michael Gilligan. The others were residents of her nursing home. It is possible that she was involved in more deaths. The authorities counted 48 deaths in her nursing home, the Archer home for elderly and infirm. The case attracted wide publicity at the time. It has been cited as an inspiration of the play Arsenic and Old Lace, and for Frank Capra's later film of the same name. Amy E. Duggan was born on October 31, 1873, to James Duggan and Mary Kennedy in Milton, Connecticut, the 8th of 10 children. She attended the Milton School at the New Britain's Normal School in 1890. Amy Duggan married James Archer in 1897. A daughter, Mary G. Archer, was born in December 1897. The Archers first became caretakers in 1901, hired to take care for John Seymour, an elderly widower. They moved into his home in Connecticut. Seymour died in 1904. His hearse converted to residence into a boarding house for the elderly, and the Archers remained to provide care for the elderly for a fee. They paid rent to Seymour's family. They ran the boarding house as Sister Amy Nursing Home for Elderly. In 1907, Seymour's heir decided to sell the house. The Archers moved to Windsor, Connecticut, and used their savings to purchase their own residence on Prospect Street in Windsor Center. They soon converted it into a business, Archer Home for Elderly and Infirm. James Archer died in 1910, apparently of natural causes. The official cause of his death was Bridget disease, a generic term for kidney disease. Amy Archer had taken out an insurance policy on him a few weeks before his death. The policy benefit enabled her to continue operating Archer Home. In 1913, Amy married Michael W. Gilligan, a widower with 4 adult sons. He was reportedly wealthy and interested in both Amy and in investing in the Archer Home. However, on February 20, 1914, after only 3 months married to Amy, Michael died. The official cause of death was severe indigestion. Amy once again was financially secured because during their short marriage, her new husband has drawn up a will which left his estate to her. The will would later be determined as forgery, as it was apparently written in handwriting matching Amy Archer Gilligan. Between 1907 and 1917, there were 60 deaths in Archer Home. Relatives of clients grew suspicious as they told the large number of deaths. Only 12 residents died between 1907 and 1910, but 48 residents died between 1911 and 1916. Among them was Franklin R. Andrews, an apparently healthy man. On the morning of May 29, 1914, Andrews was doing some gardening in the Archer house. His robust physique condition deteriorated in a single day, and he was dead by evening. The official cause of death was gastric ulcer. After Andrew's siblings, including Nellie Pierce, came into possession of some of his letters, they noted occasions where Amy Archer Gilligan was pressuring their brother for money. Amy's clients showed a pattern of dying not long after giving her a large sum of money. As the deaths counted, Neely Pierce reported her suspicions to local district attorney, but he mostly ignored her. So she took her story to Hartford Courant. On May 9, 1916, The first of several articles of Murder Factory was published. A few months later, the police started to seriously investigate the case. The investigation took almost a year to complete. The bodies of Gilligan, Andrews and 3 other boarders were exhumed. All 5 had died of poisoning. Local merchants were able to testify that Amy has been purchasing large quantities of arsenic, supposedly to kill rats. A look into Gilligan's will established that it was actually a forgery written by Amy. According to M. William Phelps, author of The Devil's Rooming House, investigation appeared to show that Amy was buying the arsenic to kill large numbers of rats. However, it appears that she did not buy all the arsenic which killed her patients. The doctor and some of the patients had signed off to purchase it. The investigation pursued Dr. King because more evidence was piling up against him, but suspicions were focused back on Amy when someone suggested to clearly check all records of arsenic purchases. When evidence was found of Amy sending her patients to the drugstore to buy quantities of arsenic, the police were able to arrest and convict her. Archer Gilligan was arrested and tried for murder, originally on 5 counts. Ultimately, her lawyer managed to have the charges reduced to a single count, the murder of Franklin R. Andrews, on June 18, 1917. A jury found her guilty and she was sentenced to death. Archer Gilligan appealed and was granted a new trial in 1919. At this trial she pleaded insane. Mary Archer testified that her mother was addicted to morphine. Archer Gilligan was again found guilty of murder and was sentenced to life imprisonment. In 1924, Archer Gilligan was declared to be temporarily insane and was transferred to Connecticut Hospital for the Insane, where she remained until her death on April 23, 1962. Thank you guys for stopping by, hope you liked these stories. Before you leave, please subscribe and hit the like button. If you have any stories, true or fictional, or maybe you have some scary videos you would like to submit, email is in the description box. And if you need any copyright-free background videos, subscribe to our other channel, Monarch Free Videos, as well. Links are down there. Just put a link to your description box, that's all, no permissions needed. Stay safe and I'll see you soon.